I was trying to check before how big was the crash during COVID, and I think it was around 50%. But the difference is that happened across 3 or 4 days. The full 50% was across 3 or 4 days. The difference here is first, at that time, Bitcoin was something like 8K, I think. So now we are 10, 15K, 15x bigger. And the crash happened a lot faster. So in terms of velocity of the crash, it's a lot more violent. In the magnitude, the percentage is still not as big as that one from COVID, but also in terms of volume, as Marcos said at the beginning, it's by far the biggest one, 20 billion in liquidations. Anyways, I think I don't have any ideas on how to back up this, but my guts tell me that next week is going to look like nothing happens based on previous experience. Like we already rebound into the 100K range. Maybe the weekend is going to be rough. It's going to be a couple more days of manipulations, but eventually the price will establish around the prices that we've been in the previous 2 weeks. And from there, hopefully, and maybe just hope, we can finally have an October and November.
Yes, because again, we were talking last week. I remember when we arrived to the office on Monday, I said, we had another all-time high, 126. Probably now we are going to go up. It's like all the way up to 150. But then this is Bitcoin. And I remember when I see these moves, is the picture of Gladiator saying, are you not entertained?
I mean, and another thing is that we are no longer used to it. You know, since 2023, I think the entire market structure changed. So now when we see minus 10% on Bitcoin, it seems to be the end of the world. But for us that we are for more than 5, 6, 7 years in the space or even before, you remember that minus 10% in the past occurred like daily sometimes.
Hello, this is the Bitcoin Libertarian, and here we are again with Bitcoin Treasury Company Report. I am here with Marco as every Saturday, and with Diego, the other Bitcoin Libertarian. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Fernando, and thank you, Diego.
Very good, very good. Trying to survive the crash of yesterday. So we want to talk about it.
So I think that we were planning to talk about other things with Marco yesterday, but today I went to sleep yesterday with Bitcoin at 119. I woke up today at Bitcoin at 114, but I saw that Bitcoin touched 101K. Incredible. And seems that it's because Donald Trump opened his mouth, right?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. So yeah, my take from this is that, yeah, for sure, Trump and the entire administration is, over Twitter and with the announcement are like manipulating and changing a lot of short-term behavior of investors. And probably was also a signal that too many trader and speculator nowadays with hyperliquid and other perp decks are like using 40x leverage. That is insanity. And the market just punished them. That's my take.
Yes, but
yeah, I was trying to understand what happened with the leverage. I mean, what levels were even crashed yesterday? And yeah, we know that in Hyperliquid and some other platforms, the DGens over there can trade at 40, 50, 100x leverage, which means the price moved 1% and you are out. So imagine yesterday with the wipe down to around 20%, because from 122 to 101, it was almost 20% the whole week down. So that probably the only thing that can survive that is a leverage of maximum 2 or 3, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I remember, when we started, like, I mean, I speak personally, but in 2017, 18, when I started to deal with investing, etc., already an 5x leverage was considered like insanity, was considered crazy, especially in a volatile market like Bitcoin. Now people are saying, yeah, 10x, 20x, 40x. It's enough 2.5 week down that you are 100% liquidated. It's crazy, and I think the market really got too hyped with all these instruments. A lot of people try to do the rich quick scheme. But again, if you are not an insider, if you don't have first-hand information real time in manipulated market, especially in the altcoin space, you are like completely wrecked.
Yes, and one of the things that I heard is that there was a guy or someone who opened an account 30 minutes before the Donald Trump tweet or through social, the post that he did, and he put like a short around 300 million US dollar, and they make a profit of around, I don't know how many millions, but it was crazy.
Well, there for sure are stories of people who made a lot of money, but mostly, I guess, it's people who lost money. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and the size is insane because I mean here we have the data from CoinGlass. In 24 hours we have $19.3 billion in liquidation. And again, as we said, CoinGlass it doesn't track all the data. It's like the majority of it, but it's 20 billion in 24 hours. And I saw other people doing some research. I think during COVID it was around 2.5 billion. So this time is almost
Yes.
10x bigger. 10x.
It was absolutely the record amount of liquidations, but by far. I think the next one was around 5 or 6 billion with the previous Donald Trump talking. But this one, my God, almost 20 billions wipe out just like that in few hours because it took no more than 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I saw it live. I was doing another thing and then I was just checking the Bitcoin price. And in like 5 minutes, it went down from 117 to 108. And then it wicked down to 102 in a flash crash. And then it kind of recovered. But yes, it's telling us also another story that only Bitcoin Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum we can put in this case for trading on the same bucket, a big pool of liquidity, big absorber of volumes. Whereas if we go in like, I don't know, altcoin number 50, some of those coins just dropped almost to zero.
Yeah, you
Atom
can
went
see that.
0.1 in Binance for like few seconds. It means that there was nobody wanted to buy this shit.
I think you can see that on the Bitcoin dominance. There is a candle up from like 50 something into 60 something, which means all the shitcoins were down to zero, or most of them 70% down. And part of that money comes to what is supposed to be the safe haven, which is Bitcoin. So it's a weird dynamic where, yeah, liquidity goes out of Bitcoin, but funneling through shitcoins who drop to zero, going to the Bitcoin. But at the same time, Bitcoin also lose money from where? From people on TradFi, or that's the part that I would like to also understand. I was watching another video from Matthew, one base money for corporate economics. So the way he describing on this graph is he was trying to show the volume, the total trade volume of Bitcoin in the whole system. So starting from Bitcoin spot on the exchanges, Bitcoin perpetuals and futures, that's on the exchanges. And then he also compute Bitcoin treasury companies, excluding a strategy, because strategy is a category on itself, Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin ETFs, and the strategy preferred stocks. So when you put all that in the basket, it sums up around 120 billion per day in trading volume. From where this around 80 billion, it's just volume on the exchanges, which means my interpretation of this, obviously, I might be doing it wrong, but my interpretation is most of this is happening on the exchanges and not much in Wall Street. Most of the volume came from Binance activity. And what you were trying to imply, Marco, I think it is the manipulation side of it. As most of the control is on the exchanges, on these Binance, Bybit, or all the other ones that are around, they can wipe out people just like that because they have the volume power of the trading.
Yeah, because most of those, I mean, retails and traders and agents at this point that use like something that is higher than 5x, you have if you have like a 10% correction in any coin, even in Bitcoin, the exchange is automatically liquidating you, because you don't even have time to put more collateral or to try to refill the position. So it was so quick, so violent, that everything was wiped out, and then it was this cascading effect. But I think for me, as you said, Diego, I agree, was mainly focused on exchanges and perp decks, was only mostly driven by this insane euphoria for October. So a lot of people maybe just said, yeah, now it's over, we go 3x up, so I want to put 10x leverage on it. And not much on Tradify, because I was checking on the after hours for MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and Marathon. Bitcoin was down like minus 9%, and MicroStrategy was minus 2. Marathon was minus 2, and Coinbase was minus 1.5. So I think was 100% manipulation, 100% for big account, big whales, dumping everything or having insider information a few hours before or few minutes before the news.
And also, what I read, it was a post from Binance saying something like, sorry about the issues during this crash. Apparently, I don't know, because I was sleeping. I didn't know what happened, and I don't have a Binance account anymore. But apparently, the system went offline, or you couldn't execute trades. So imagine the situation where you are in a leverage position. The price is coming down, and you want to exit, and the system doesn't respond. You cannot, even if you have a stop loss, the stop loss will not be respected when you have a wipe down from 122 to 101. Even though if you have the stop loss somewhere in the 110K range, who knows who's going to take that at that velocity, right?
And it happens also in the past with Coinbase. So now it's the first time also we see this major issue with Binance. And yeah, no, I agree with you. It's again, on one side, I might also understand the problem from the technological side, and considering I don't know, you have 250 million users just entering the app altogether, doing things. Even though Binance is like super structured and very, high quality maintenance of the server, etc. If you have this spike in 1 hour, I mean, I don't want to see the something behind it. I think it's really some, major event, a black swan event on crypto. But yeah, I agree with you. You don't even have time to post more collateral or to try to extend a trade. So you just fucked. So that's why better not to use leverage.
Yeah, but I don't like also the excuse of Binance saying, sorry, it's because we have too many traffic or too many volume or whatever, and the system cannot handle it. If the system cannot handle it, then maybe that's not your business, because you actually have the resources to create a system that is proof to work under extreme conditions. The same way, like in the engineering world, whenever we design an aircraft, we don't design it just to take off. We design it to take off, to land, to go across storms, and all kinds of situations. Even considering the worst case scenarios, the aircraft are double in size of what they can stand. So my concept could be the same. If I have to design a system that is handling a lot of the world's economy, how can you put it as an excuse that you have too much volume? Just redesign your system, whatever you have to do.
I think so. Yes. And you think that what is going to happen? Because as Marco said at the beginning, we were in October super excited. All the people, we saw 2 all-time hikes last week. On Monday, we saw 2 all-time hikes, and now we see this. What can come now? Do you think it's going to recover? Do you think it's going to be around, start moving laterally? What can we expect?
That's a big question, to be honest. I think my view is, it's still very early, so we don't have the full picture yet. But if it's only located to exchanges, perp decks, and purely gambling and trading, pure speculation, I think we're gonna handle it pretty fine. However, if we had some second order effect or third order effect on some other players, and we will see in the next probably weeks, maybe some exchanges that went bust because they didn't have enough collateral, they borrow money from another one, so we can have this domino effect. I think this is too early to know. But from my first guess, it's mostly driven by degens and someone with insider information that anticipated this major sell-off. And again, I remember when we had the similar crash during COVID. I remember then, and I thought it was much worse than this one. I don't know if because I'm much more experienced in the space or whatever, but back then it seems to me much more macro, much more the entire world is coming to an end. In this case, for me, it's mainly driven by this insanity of people that wants to do 10x money overnight.
Well, I was trying to check before how big was the crash during COVID, and I think it was around 50%. But the difference is that happened across 3 or 4 days. The full 50% was across 3 or 4 days. The difference here is first, we are at that time Bitcoin was something like 8K, I think. So now we are 10, 15K, 15x bigger, and the crash happened a lot faster. So in terms of velocity of the crash, it's a lot more violent. In the magnitude, in the percentage, is still not as big as that one from COVID, but also in terms of volume, as you, Marcos, say at the beginning, is by far the biggest one with 20 billion in liquidations. Anyways, I think I don't have any ideas on how to back up this, but my guts tell me the next week is going to look like nothing happens based on previous experience. Like we already rebound into the 100K range. Maybe the weekend is going to be rough. It's going to be a couple more days of manipulations, but eventually the price will establish around the prices that we've been in the previous 2 weeks. And from there, hopefully, and maybe just hope, we can finally have an October and November.
Yes, because again, we were talking last week. I remember when we arrived to the office on Monday, I said, oh, we had another all-time high, 126. Probably now we are going to go up. It's like all the way up to 150. But then this is Bitcoin. And I remember when I see these moves, is the picture of Gladiator saying, are you not entertained?
I mean, and another thing is that we are no longer used to it. Since 2023, I think the entire market structure changed. So now when we see minus 10% on Bitcoin, it seems to be the end of the world. But for us that we are for more than 5, 6, 7 years in the space or even before, you remember that minus 10% in the past occurred like daily sometimes. Maybe you have even, so I see what Diego refers that now the market size is much bigger. But again, we need to remember that the price is set on the margin between buyer and seller, demand and offer. So if we have this very concentrated attack trying to create a hole in the book orders of exchanges, or in case of you see a lot of liquidation levels that might be taken, I think it was mainly driven by this one. So I'm not super down. I think it's like pretty heavy, but if in 1 week we rebound and we recover the 115, 112 level, I think it was a flash and we can move on.
Yes, but
What do you
the
think?
other...
Sorry, let me connect that something with Marco there. What do you think is going to happen with well, let me reframe it. Can these kind of wipeouts influence Bitcoin adoptions from the newest perspective? Because for us, we've been long time here. We've been in the crash from 65 to 16, back to 30, back to 20, up to 100, down to 70. So it's kind of normal to us. But for the people who just came into the space, they put they buy the first Bitcoin at 120, and they experienced this in the first week of their Bitcoin experience. I guess they're going to be running away of it, and it will affect Bitcoin adoption in long term. I don't know what Marco you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's true, but overall, if we see the full picture, imagine if you put your first 10K in, I don't know, another altcoin, and then you open the app, it's minus 70% in 1 hour. In that case, you might completely think you just went to the casino. On Bitcoin, yes, you've done like a minus 15%, then it jumped, it recovered a bit. So yes, it's still like a severe hit mentally that you might not expect. But we know we are living in a strange situation for Bitcoin in the last year and a half. The volatility has never been so low. The 4-year CAGR has never been so low. So it's an anomaly. Bitcoin is volatile. It's one of the most volatile macro asset that we have. So I think this minus 12, 15% was scary, but it's something that is embedded in the structure of Bitcoin because it's still a very young asset class and it's still very little because it's 2 trillion. It can be easily manipulated with 20 billion shorts. So I think people need to understand that and just take the lesson, study more if they have uncertainty on Bitcoin, and don't touch with leverage all the rest because it's brutal. Can be brutal.
Yes.
The other thing that I think it can be healthy for the system is when these flash outs happens, you remove all the bad actors from the system. It's like now it looks like a more clean system where price discovery might happen in a more fair way. So my hope
Yeah, it might
is
happen
that
for
now,
real. Yes.
right now that all the bad actors, all the decisions are flashed out, Bitcoin can have sometimes to go through a price discovery mode and get to the real fair value in the next months, maybe.
Yes, and talking about the adoption from the newbies, this is something that I always preach. Try to, before moving to Bitcoin, before buying your first Bitcoins or sats or whatever, just study. Because now there are a lot of information. There are a lot of people talking about the story of Bitcoin. So this is something that you might find. The volatility is something that you might find. So if you have done your research, you have done your homework, you have studied enough, you need to think that this can happen. As Marco said, you don't have to enter with leverage. You don't have to go to the shit coins. If you go to Bitcoin, it's just that, again, you put, let's say 10K, now you are probably 10, 12% down in your portfolio, but it's going to recover. So this happened before. It's not that it's the first time that happens. So maybe trigger. So if the new people did their own research, study Bitcoin properly, I think there might not be a problem for the adoption.
I think it's also, as usual, we see when we see this kind of movement is happening either on Sundays when you have like lower liquidity, when like people are kind of off guard because maybe it's Sunday, so you just go out, don't spend too much time behind a desk or behind the phone. And yesterday, similarly, it happened on Friday after market where U.S. equity was the stock market was closed. So that's why I'm really believing that it's only kind of a degen speculative side of it and not really impacting Tradify because also, MSTR after hour was fine. I want to see on Monday the ETFs. If on Monday we see also a sell-off on the ETFs, might continue the movement down because imagine that, I don't know, 10 billions wants to exit from IBIT on Monday because
Yeah, that's a
they are
good point.
afraid of movement.
But Monday, isn't it
Monday is holiday.
Oh, so we
Holiday,
have to
okay.
wait until Tuesday for the show to be continued.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see on Tuesday if we see massive. Maybe we already can see on the future market for the ETFs. If we see something really strange on Sunday or on Monday, maybe this sell-off it's not over. But if we see overall that the ETF is solid and also the treasuries are solid and Bitcoin can recover a bit, I think it's a positive, healthy crash that now it can be cleared off for like the next leg up, as Diego mentioned.
Yes, I
Also,
think
the other thing that I want to point out is that do not blame Bitcoin for this because this wasn't a Bitcoin problem at the beginning. It wasn't triggered by Bitcoin like in some other cases. In the case of the FTX, that was a Bitcoin issue. This is just a macro issue, and all this year we have a couple of incidents like this. None of them were Bitcoin issues. Bitcoin was reacting to the macro news, and as it is the most liquid market, because Bitcoin still operates on a Sunday or from Monday to Friday at night, it reacts more violently than the stock market. So even yesterday, you can see that the tech stocks were down something like 5%. The S&P and Nasdaq around 3-4%, which is pretty significant. Bitcoin, without the white paper, overall with the rebound was around 10%. So that reaction from the Bitcoin side looks normal, but it's a reaction to something that doesn't belong to Bitcoin. It's just an external factor. The other thing that maybe Bitcoiners are a little bit disappointed is that while all this is happening, gold keeps climbing up. So it's kind of like why Bitcoin doesn't do the same, because it is more related to the macro news to the stock market than gold for some reason.
Yes. Probably Peter Schiff is happy.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is still associated with QQQ tech stock, with very risk-on aggressive assets, and I understand it. It's still very volatile, so most people still associate with something very risky in their portfolio. Maybe in this decade, I might agree that we should see behaving more closely to gold, but I think it's still too early. And I think now gold is stealing all the shiny price now is on gold because it's up 53% in 1 year. So again, the one of the best year in gold, and if you adjust the risk, to be honest, in 2024 and 2025 was better having gold rather than Bitcoin. Even though I believe over the long term Bitcoin will succeed and will be better than gold, 24 and 25 you were probably better off holding gold rather than Bitcoin. At some point this will flip because technology is superior on Bitcoin, and but we need to be patient.
Of course, we need. And well, I think that we talk. Do you want to talk anything else about this, or we can move to the next topic?
Me personally, I think we cover quite a lot.
Yes, we covered a lot, and let's see what happened. The only thing that I want to put is when FTX crashed was not because of Bitcoin, was because of FTX. Nothing.
Yeah.
We cannot blame Bitcoin. No, nobody can blame Bitcoin. That was when there are crash in Bitcoin or the crypto space, is not because of Bitcoin. It's because the misuse that we do with Bitcoin. Sorry, but my Maxi, my inner Maxi is coming.
You are right, but from the perspective of the general public, not from the ones that as the insiders that know what happened. From the outside, it was a crypto event. Crypto equals Bitcoin for most people, so they will relate it to it was a Bitcoin issue. That's what I mean. But yeah, you are right that it wasn't a Bitcoin problem indeed, but shitcoins.
Of course.
Also, Fernando, I agree 100%. Is myopic. People associate with a crash. It's a bad behavior of people. It was a very bad behavior from people managing FTX and doing fraud, and they also damage Bitcoin price and image on the public. And similarly to what happened to UST and Luna, they have this algorithmic stable coin with the peg also based on reserve on Bitcoin. Someone removed the peg, was able to hack the peg, and then they, in order to regain the peg, they start to sell Bitcoin, causing a sell-off, etc. So most people say, you see, Bitcoin is there is a problem in Bitcoin. Absolutely not.
That's what I want to point. When there is a problem on the Bitcoin, on the crypto space, it's not because of Bitcoin, it's because of the degens or the shitcoiners or people scamming and doing the same. But I want to add one thing that is the power law. That was like I was commenting to Diego, the crazy stuff, something that caught my attention, that yesterday I make a video in the night that was in Spanish for our Spanish channel, and I was talking about the Power Law. And yesterday, Power Law the price was a little bit up from the Power Law trend. Today, so let's see, October 10. We have the data until October 10. Even the point is that we were 121, then we went down to 101, and the day closed almost in the projection of the Power Law. So yesterday, the Power Law projection was 111,700 US dollar, and the Bitcoin price closed at 111,841 US dollars. Even though it started the day 121, went down up to 101, and almost finished the day, closed the day, pegged to the Power Law. That caught my attention so much.
It's kind of a coincidence that it happened that fast, but it proved the concept that eventually when you go out so much out of the bands, the external bands, it's like a magnet. It has to rebound to the equilibrium point. Usually this fluctuation happens in longer periods of time, but it's interesting to notice that it happened that fast yesterday. And
yes, because
we are still on track.
I was saying, why didn't close 115 or why didn't close 105? No, just close at the same level of the Power Law predicted. So if we say that Bitcoin is a living organism, maybe Bitcoin wanted to go back to the equilibrium level. Maybe. So it's something that I wanted to point. And talking about the Bitcoin treasuries, we didn't have too much information in the last week. By the way, we have on October 30 is going to be the earnings call for Strategy, and we are going to be streaming. So it's going to be funny this time. But what happened with Nakamoto? Nakamoto is not recovering. I think that when we touched Nakamoto last time was around 1.5 US dollars, and this week was less than $1.
Yeah, I think it closed at $0.9, and the MNAV is probably 0.8, 0.75. I don't know. It's probably one of the worst performer, and I think also it has a reason why. Because when you are like the CEO going on podcast, going everywhere with this lack of humility and trying to saying yes, we will become like the fastest growing company on the planet. We will reach 1 billion. Bitcoin in, I don't know, 5 years. We will buy every company possible on the planet, blah, blah, blah. I think market does, overall, we are like a collective organism. And if you see people behaving without the ethos of Bitcoin or the humility that Bitcoin should bring to you, I think you will be punished. So the whole Nakamoto project is suffering right now. I'm not saying that it's going to not recover, but again, it's in a very bleak scenario. And similarly, also Strive, because they use similar way to raise capital, similar way to these pipe deals. And also Strive is suffering a lot. It's 120, I think now, $1.20. And if people are wondering why they acquire Semler with a 210 premium on it, is because they knew exactly well that their own stock will tank and will crash down. So I think now the premium is completely evaporated. So if you are a Semler shareholder, if the deal will remain in place, technically you don't receive any premium. If Stripe keeps going under 1.2, you will have a discount. So you will have even less than what's actually value today on Semler side. So the whole Bitcoin equity space is a bit under pressure, and we need to see now if Nakamoto, Strive, also Metaplanet, and other can reverse the course.
Do you think it could be caused by short sellers? No, I'm not talking only about Nakamoto, but in general, all this trend in the last months that the MNAVs of most of the Bitcoin treasury companies, including MicroStrategy, dropped to levels that we haven't seen in a long time. I heard a couple of theories that they've been targeted by short sellers until someone find out a way to counterattack this. One of the proposals was saying something like, your way to counterattack this is when your MNAV goes below 1, just sell the Bitcoin and remove shares. So you automatically will bring the MNAV up, and maybe is a way for fighting back the short sellers. At least this is a theory of someone else I heard. I'm trying to make sense, if it makes sense. But it could be if you remain passive and your MNAV is dropping and the short sellers are coming and they are saying they are confident in that you are not going to sell your Bitcoin because that's the ethos, they could keep putting some pressure on it. But if someone come up with a counter offensive strategy, like for example selling Bitcoin when your MNAV is below 1, maybe you can start recovering the situation for most of the treasury companies. But I don't know, what do you think about that theory, Marco?
I think it's for sure on some smaller player it might be tested out. I'm not sure it's gonna really succeed because my view is even if you compress below 1, if your business model, if your strategy is a real one in which you accrue value, meaning using a different line of business in which you can create more Bitcoin per share, automatically this will reverse at some point. If your structure is sane, if your structure is well balanced, and you have a real strategy, and for real strategy I mean MicroStrategy, MetaPlanet, and very few others, those company, if they can stand a bit of time, and if they can, if they're not over leveraged with crazy bad terms and conditions, I think they can easily maintain even a well below 0.9 MNAV. And then once Bitcoin will spike up, they will gain volatility back, monetize volatility, and restart the engine. But only if those companies have a real strategy behind them. If you just buy Bitcoin, raise capital, and that's it, I think the market will forever punish you and put you at 1 MNAV at best or below. So there is this two bifurcation for me. Real treasury companies that are financial engineering monetizing volatility on one side, and all the rest that if they're not innovative or they are not very creative in creating new strategy, they will suffer in the 1x MNAV, which again is not bad. It's simply that you are tied to the valuation of your Bitcoin. So maybe for those can be useful to explore other strategy, but again, selling Bitcoin, it depends. If you said at first that you will never sell Bitcoin and then you start to sell Bitcoin, I think market will panic. The shareholder base will panic and probably will nuke to much lower result. If you have been always vague and not mentioning it, maybe you can try as a last resort, but I will never sell Bitcoin to remove pressure on my share or buy back my own share with it. That's my view.
Yes, because
That
at the
makes
end of the
sense.
day, the treasury companies, if you invest on them, is because they are not going to sell Bitcoin. So that's the point.
And I think
So
we went too much high and too quickly with MetaPlanet, with Capital B. And again, if we see the chart on 1 year, Capital B is still plus, I don't know, 150%. It's already an insane return. The problem is that we were used to go like 3,000%, but it's not normal. Normal is plus 50%. It's already a great return in 1 year. 150, 200%, guys, it's you have done jackpot. So people are correctly on the direction, but they were bad in timing, and they are complaining now because they bought, I don't know, MetaPlanet at 1,200 yen, and now it's trading at 700. Again, it's a big hit, but if you consider 1 year time frame, it's 3x up. So it's
If
still an
you are a
amazing.
hold, if you are a shareholder of one of these Bitcoin Treasury companies, the ideal situation could be that you just hold it for at least 4 years, following the same principle that when you hold Bitcoin, there is on a time frame of 4 years, there was nobody who ever lose money on Bitcoin. But you have to give them that time frame. That is coincidental with the halvings, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily because of the halving. But if you give them enough time frame, you will be in profit. I don't see a situation where, well, some of them for sure might fail on the strategy and collapse. But the biggest ones, or overall across the board in all treasury companies, if you take it in a long-term horizon, I think that's still a good idea. But you have to be prepared for these drop downs, which will be a lot more violent than the Bitcoin wipeout like the one yesterday.
Yeah, and then again, maybe in 4 years you can be in profit in USD term. But if your denominator will be Bitcoin and you will use Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure that 98% of those micro cap in Bitcoin terms, they are in red, meaning that you should have bought Bitcoin, put in cold storage, have less risk of management risk, geographic risk, management, or whatever, and you would also have more in terms of returns. So the general view for me is you can find a very good opportunities, but first you need to be aware that you might underperform Bitcoin in the medium long term, even if you buy a Bitcoin equities. And second, timing is crucial. If you buy, you are sure that minus 75% is a good entry point, it can go down another 80% because they behave similarly to the altcoin space when we compare to Bitcoin. Strategy, I think, is different. Even if we see the chart, it was very interesting. Someone on Twitter put it out, the chart of strategy behaving very similarly to Bitcoin once priced in gold, not Bitcoin once priced in dollar. I think it's the only one behaving like this. So strategy really has a case in which they can perform better than Bitcoin in a longer time frame. All the rest, I'm not very confident. They might be plus very, very huge return in USD term, but not necessarily in Bitcoin terms.
Yes, can be. So, anything else about the Nakamoto? I think that we can move to the last and most interesting topic that we have for today.
Yeah, guys, I leave the floor to you for this one.
Yes, because we are Argentinians and we are going to talk about the new strategy of the United States of America that probably the UE can do, Hong Kong can do, that is the strategic Argentinian peso reserve.
Wow.
Was crazy, was shocking for us because I saw when I arrived at the office yesterday morning, I prepare my coffee. I like to arrive really early, prepare my coffee, read the news, see some stuff on Twitter. When I saw that United States had bought Argentinian pesos, I thought, what the fuck? What happened? I'm reading okay. Then Diego came to the office and I talked to him and he didn't understand. So was a little bit crazy what happened. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah.
Yeah, my point is, it's been over around a year already where we've been talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve to be adopted by the US government. And it's in talks. And it was a big point at the beginning of the year. In the last months, it's kind of like disappeared from the mainstream, but it was a big thing. Now, from a Monday to a Tuesday, it took 2 minutes to deploy 20 billion US dollar in Argentinian peso. For what? We are the Argentinians. We should be happy about it. But it doesn't even make sense for the US. Why would you prefer to put the money on the Argentinian peso instead of, imagine if they would have put this 20 billion in Bitcoin. Imagine what would happen. They would, at the price that is today, that would mean they could buy around 175,000 bitcoins, almost doubling what they already have. Imagine the masses they will deliver to the rest of the world, to the rest of the central banks, if that would happen. Instead, you buy the Argentinian peso because of some political move, geopolitical moves, or
Let me
whatever. And the weird
let,
thing is, let me round up with this, is that Besant, in an interview, when they've been punished by the mainstream media over there about what the hell we are buying Argentinian peso, he gives this political explanation, and then at the end of the day say, well, the Argentinian peso is undervalued, so it's always good to buy low and sell high, as to justify the thing because they're going to make profit, which might make sense. Let me show you. I don't know, Fernando, you have to add something else. I want to show you a graph
I
about that.
I want to clarify something that Diego said. USA didn't deploy 20 billion. They just bought an amount of Argentinian pesos with around probably 400 million million US dollars. The 20 billion is an agreement that's going to be in a swap. So this is signed, but the money is not yet deployed. In this case, United States just bought from a fund that they have from stabilization of currency around, I think, that 300 million US dollars, but used 300 million US dollars to buy pesos. But the 20 million is not yet deployed, but it's going to be deployed in soon. And I think that this is making Safety gone crazy because he hates the Argentinian president.
So let me show you some numbers on the graph. We can back up this.
Maybe guys, again, maybe I can add something, because I read also that maybe, yes, you have the swap line up to 20 billion to stabilize the peso and try to give more liquidity to Argentina, etc. But again, what we see with this administration is that they always do something if there is some commercial value or some sales on the back end. So maybe, yeah, we give you 20 billion in swap line, but we need this I don't know, amount of rare earth, or this amount of steel, or this amount of raw materials, and maybe you give to us at a very, very cheap price in the next years. I don't know, maybe it can be on the facade is just I give you 20 billion, blah blah blah, but maybe on the back end this administration wants something in return, so maybe it's this kind of agreement. I don't know.
Yes, the main questions on the Argentinian side, it's what are we giving up? Most of the talks from the position is we are giving up on sovereignty and like weird things that doesn't make sense. From the American side, it's why the hell we were fighting last year because we were sending money to Ukraine to fight with Russia, and that was not very well perceived by the Trump administration. But now you're deploying money in Argentina. If it is for these eventually business opportunities, it might make sense. It would be a good idea. But let's see now if it also makes sense in terms of making profit out of it. So can you see the graph there?
Yes.
So this is the graph of the Argentinian peso since 2009 until now. And well, first we tried to match it to a power law. It's obviously not the power law. The R square for a power law would be 58%. And that is normal for all currencies, by the way, because currencies follow an exponential. As an exponential, the Argentinian peso has a fit of 94%. So that's pretty damn good. Now, where we are in the last, I think the last update of this one is September 20 something, which is 2 weeks ago, but the price is pretty similar. So the price over there was, here it's called the Argentinian peso, the main one, the market one is called blue. So the blue price is 1,400 or around there. while the projection of the exponential say should be 873. And as anecdotal evidence, that also match up with the calculations of the Argentinian Minister of Economy. They say that the fair value of the Argentinian peso should be right now around 900, which also match up with what Bessen say, which is the Argentinian peso is undervalued. In this case, undervalue means being lower, right? Because we are seeing this. It took me a while to sit myself on the other side of the equation. If the value is lower, it means it's appreciated. If the value is higher, it means it's under appreciated. So to recap, the fair price should be around 900. The current price is around 1500, 1500. So that's why they came to the conclusion that the Argentinian peso is a good investment right now, because eventually it should go to the equilibrium price of 900. Now, the exponentials, let's see what the exponentials say about that. If we extrapolate that to, let's say, a year from now, September, October 2026, it say that the prediction price of the exponential would be 1,300. That's the fair value that it would be. And as you can see on the graph, the actual price is trading above the trend line, which means eventually it could trade down and showing the trend line, and eventually on time keep rising up, right? Because nothing stopped this trend, as Leonardo said, because as the economy grow and the money supply grows and the GDP and the whole economy grows, the value of the peso will keep growing. Also because it's pegged to a floating range of in between 900 and 1400, where if the price goes above 1400, the central bank could sell dollars, and if it is below, they can buy to keep the price in that funnel. Also, there is a crawling peg, which I think is something like a 1% per month, which open up these funnels.
Yes.
It works to open up the funnels. It means every month the funnel goes open. Instead of being 1400, it would be in a few months, maybe 1500. So nothing stopped that the price eventually will go up. How much it can go, just for the fun of it, in 2030, it should be around 6,000. Now, if Bessen believe what he say, the U.S. have a time frame to make profit of this, which I think it is no further than 2027. In other words, they might hold pesos until 2027. If the price is trending down, they might sell and actually make a profit out of this situation. That's my whole point. We're trying to justify from the geopolitical side, from the business side, and also from the price point side. They all make sense, but still, for me, it looks very weird, and I don't understand why they couldn't use that money to just create the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which would be long-term a much better solution than just buying pesos.
Yes, totally agree. What I was listening and my own conclusions is in Argentina. That's why I discussed with Seifdin on the posts, because he sees everything from his Austrian economic view, and he doesn't understand Argentina's politics and how it works inside Argentina. One of the things that is happening in Argentina today, we are an election year, is the midterms election, and the opposition to Javier Milei, that has been doing this policy of zero, of like balance the spend of the no deficit in this, the zero deficit in the policy. The opposition has been attacking the economic plan of Javier Milei, of course, because they don't want him to be success. Because with this plan, he could put the dollar stable, the inflation lowering, and he was gaining a lot of popularity. So as this is an election year, the opposition start attacking the Milei's plans, and eventually he can lose the elections and he can be removed from the power as they want. And from Trump's side, having South America now full of left-wing politicians, Milei is the only ally that Trump has on the region. So I think that he wants to protect Milei government to keep having an ally on the region, and probably in the future do some deals with the rare earth and other minerals. One of the things that Besant said, that they want kick out China from Argentina, because nowadays Argentina has a swap with in yuan with the government of China. So that's something that the US wants to do. Another crazy theory that I heard from a left-wing streaming in Argentina, that I also listened to them to see how crazy they are. But they were saying that the United States is going to buy pesos in case Milei loses the presidency in 2027. They will drop all the pesos at once, make an hyperinflation, and remove the next president and put back Milei. But these are crazy theories from the left wing. In my opinion, I think that this is more related to some political support from Trump to Milei, because again, he is allying with Milei, with Giorgia Meloni, with Netanyahu, with Orban, with all these right-wing leaders. And I think that Trump wants to protect Milei, especially in South America, where we have in Uruguay, we have a left-wing president. In Brazil, we have a left-wing president. In Chile as well. Now, I think in Bolivia, but it's going to be changed. In Colombia, we have a left-wing president, and we have always the threat of Venezuela, the war that United States now has with Venezuela and his president. So I think that comes more from political support, but let's see what is going to take United States out of this deal.
It's very hard to justify that for the Americans, I think. It will be harder. There are complaints from both sides that the Argentinian leftists will find any argument to fight back. And some of them might make sense, some of them not. But also on the other side, you will have resistance from the American side, because why would you spend money on another country in first place?
Yeah, I mean, first, guys, very interesting of this inside information from Argentina. Very very interesting for me to hear. And no, I kind of agree. I think it's mainly a political reason, but then they needed to justify for the American public as an economic reason. So I think it's kind of in between, trying to keep one ally in the South American side, not giving like too much power also for China, because if you control the money, or if you have a big agreement on the monetary side, technically the other country is controlling you, some de facto. So I think it's possible. And again, if I remember correctly, Besant, when it was in his private corporate job, he did a very big trade deal on the UK currency with the kind of depeg on not depeg, it was kind of an arbitrage with the German mark and the pound back in the 90s, I think. So I think he's very knowledgeable and very inside the trading, I mean the currency trade, the forex currency trade. So maybe yes, on one side might be economical sense, but I think on the back end is more on the political side and try to get something out of Argentina in terms of deals.
Yes.
Economic deals, yeah.
Yes, again, I think that in Latin America, the biggest countries are Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico. In order is Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. Brazil has a left-wing president, Lula. In Mexico, you have a woman that is a self-proclaimed communist, and now and then you have to balance the power. In Argentina, the potential candidate, the nemesis of Milei, is the governor of the Buenos Aires province that is not 100% communist. He was a communist when he was a kid, a teenager, in a student. He's worse than a communist. He's a Keynesian. So that's why United States want to keep, I think, Argentina on their side. They don't want Milei to fall. So let's see. That's why I think it's more political, but Besant in the speech needs to say that they will get a profit out of that.
Yeah, because also the American public is a bit now after after COVID, after the recent X Files in 2023, 2024, and now I think the public is much more aware of what's happening or where the money is going. That the situation in the US is also start to crumble. So there will be much more pressure to just send a blind check of billions to countries. So.
Yes, and I would be pissed if I was American. Why my government is buying a shitcoin from the south called Peso instead of buying Bitcoin? That's like you are delaying the Bitcoin strategic reserve and you're buying pesos. Come on, but let's see.
Yeah, they sent trillions of dollars between Israel, between Ukraine, in other jurisdiction to fight other regime or try to limit China. I think this expansionism of the US is over. They need to go back and think first to their own country because they have a lot of problem as well. So yeah, I think it's the last attempts for the organization to try to hand over money, and now they need to refocus on their own. So hopefully at some point in the future we will have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I wasn't very optimistic when I heard this news at first. I'm very skeptical when politicians say something about Bitcoin. So, but eventually it will happen. Maybe not in the terms of Cynthia Lamis and the others said, yeah, the next two months we have, 1 billion Bitcoin. But maybe in 5 years, 10 years, the US will have some kind of strategic allocation to it.
Sooner or later, you must have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You cannot deny Bitcoin.
I'm just surprised that it took such a little discussions to just do the peso, and it's been 1 year and we didn't move the needle for Bitcoin. I don't know how internally this is processed. That might be a good reason for it, but I don't understand it. On the other hand, if it is about the minerals or some strategic business thing, the US is already too late on this race. If they, let's say, because now the problem that triggered the crash yesterday, I think one of the main issues was the rare earth thing that China say they're not gonna, they're gonna keep it basically, or they're not gonna be used by other countries. So as most of the growth in the next years coming through AI, these are absolutely necessary elements to have. If you don't have it, you're not going to grow, which means, on the other hand, China hold the stronger card in their hands if they can manipulate this. In case of if Argentina have lithium they have. Not sure about the rare earth, but let's assume they have, and the strategy is from the US. Well, let's partner up with Argentina so we can have this material that is essential for our GDP growth in the next year. It will take decades for processing and implementation of first the mining activities required to extract the mineral, then the processing. I heard that the processing is way more complicated than just extracting the mineral. So China started these decades ago. It's too far ahead in this competition. They will not be able to compete if they start the race right now. That's my point.
Yes. Let's see. And by the way, on talking about Argentina, on Tuesday, Milei and Trump are meeting in the Oval Office, and they will do some announcements. And yesterday,
We'll do some show. There will be a show.
I hope I'm waiting for Safe Dean's tweet
Rock
for
band
sure.
and some fireworks, something crazy. My God.
I will be waiting for Safe Dean tweets against Milei. By the way, Safe Dean is gonna be speaking at Lugano, so I hope I can meet him and I say you have to support Milei.
I'm not sure he will be on your side on that one. On
No
Bitcoin,
way.
sure, but on
No way,
Milei, no.
but yesterday was announced a 25 billion US investment from OpenAI in Argentina to build a data center in the south of Argentina.
You see? Okay.
So I
Maybe
think
there
that
will be more things coming after this 20 billion swap line that say, okay, now it makes more sense.
you see, it's
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be good for Argentina. So let's see what happens. So guys, I think that we don't have anything else to discuss. Let's see what happened this week. It's gonna be crazy. I don't know, but let's see.
Yeah, I think we will have a lot of information depending on how Bitcoin will respond. If we go back to 112, 115 range, I think it's a strong rebound. If on Tuesday, when ETFs start to dump some other bad news and then we go below 100, then I will, not panic, but I think we should revisit maybe where are we on the trend line, on the cycle and etc. But I think today is too early to have a final judgment.
Yes, of course. Just happen.
Yeah, maybe you have to wait until what happened. On Monday, usually what happens is when the Asian markets open, there is some movements there. It could be up or down depending on what happened on Friday close. So it'll be interesting to see the first data point. I think we will have on Monday,
Asian
6, 7 a.m. Hong Kong time, when the Asian markets see how they react to what happened on the weekend. Because imagine that for the Asian market, they didn't see this on the official markets. They see it on the Bitcoin side. So that would be the first reaction. The second one would be when the American stocks open. And expect some rough week. But I think after a couple of weeks, we will barely remember what happened.
Put Bitcoin in storage and it's going to be fine.
And chill, yes. And it's like, if Diego nailed it, we would barely remember that happened. This year, remember, we have the war with Israel. We had the how was the name? I don't even remember. The AI stuff.
The Japanese carry trade, the DeepSeek.
Trump
I remember shit a couple of times.
Bombarding Iran, nuclear facilities.
I remember this day when the DeepSeek thing was like, okay, it's over. We are done.
End of the war.
Nvidia goes to 10 million now. Yeah.
I think that day Nvidia lost $500 billion.
Yeah.
And now is again.
Now it almost doubled from the down.
Yeah.
So I think this happened only like 6-7 months ago. So you have to have a long-term vision, and still people who are a little bit risk averse, they can use these days as opportunities to buy dips. It's risky because you don't know if you are not catching a moving knife. But usually, because I always remember the day that happened with Nvidia, I dropped from 130, 140 to 70.
70, yeah.
And I was trying to decide, is it a good entry or not? I skip it.
It was an amazing one, but in the moment, but in the moment you might say, I don't know, maybe it goes to 50 now.
Right. And that's how it feels today, right? We don't know if we buy at 110K and it will go down to 95 by Monday.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, we are live and it's now Bitcoin is trading at 112,000. And again,
we are so fucking back.
If we go back 1 year ago, we would have dreamed to say we are stable for more than 4 months now above 100K.
Of course.
So again, it's only perspective. So 112 I don't know. It's not that bad for me. It's okay. If we still there in 1 week or two, I think it's green ahead. So
It's the same price we have 10 days ago or 1 week ago.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
So it's just that it goes up to 126 and down to 101. On the other hand, I welcome back the volatility because I was quite boring for 6 months.
We need,
and I think that at the end of the day, the volatility is good for treasury companies. So the Bitcoin volatility, I heard about that. So let's see what happens.
Finger crossed.
Let's see what happens. So guys, Marco, thank you very much for being with us. As usual, what's your social media?
Only on X at Battistoshi93. So
excellent.
Feel free to join. Yeah.
So Marco, Diego, thanks for joining and see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. And by the way, if any of you is traveling to Argentina to the La Bitcoin conference on 7 and 8 of November in Costa Salguero, you can buy the tickets using our code Libertarian with 30% discount. So if you're going, you can go there and buy the tickets with 30% discount. So again, share this episode with the people you love. Share this episode with the people you hate, because we must reach 8 billion people and on board to Bitcoin. See you in the next episode of our podcast. Stay humble, stack sats, and remember, we are all Satoshi. And that's all for today. If you like the episode, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media. Our X account is the Bitcoin _. Our YouTube channel is the Libertarian BTC. Our YouTube channel in Spanish is Libertarian BTC ESP. Our Patreon, the Bitcoin Libertarian. Our Instagram, the Bitcoin Libertarian. That's all. You can go there and follow us in all our social media.